And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bench with Bubba, episode 774. We're back with the FAAB recap, week 16 FAAB. Took last week off as I was in no way, shape, or form ready to record a podcast on Monday. So we moved it. We took a week off, and we are back at it here to recap week 16. A kind of mediocre week in FAAB, but we'll have plenty to talk about like we always do. First off, you can find me on Twitter at BDNtrick, and I've told you I'm out of it. It's been a while, Ben, but you can find my co-host as always on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. Ben Tid, how are we doing, my friend?
It's all good, Bubba. I'm doing well, but yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, you have so many opportunities to mess up that you never do. So I think that's the first time you ever stumbled through the intro that I couldn't remember. But
it's the first in a long time for me. That was interesting. Even Ryan says I'm rusty. Thanks, Ryan.
Out.
Yeah. I'll wait till I screw up that show too. But sorry, how are you doing? We talked before the show. You seem like you're living the good life these days.
Outside of fantasy, yeah, I'm getting out and doing a lot of golfing. I have my league tomorrow, golfing on Thursday with my cousin. But I was lamenting with you about how bad my main events pitching week was last week, and it put me out of the money in the overall, and it took me out of first place in my league. So there were a lot of fireworks going off on my pitching staff on Friday, besides around the country. It was not a good day. Even though I was golfing, it was very highs and lows for me on Friday and going into the weekend. But hopefully my guys get their acts together going into the week. But I don't know. I have some better matchups at least. It's just I can't. After the shellacking I took, I'm kind of gun shy now going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like we were kind of talking before the show, and I was setting lineups. I'm like, I think I'm going to play this reliever instead of this matchup because I just rather take my chance on like 2 innings, maybe 3 Ks, and sneak in a win or a save and just kind of walk away and just kind of slowly build things back. Probably not the right approach. People will tell me I'm an idiot. Won't be the first or last time that takes place. But that's where I'm kind of going because it was rough. But then I was also telling myself there's the old adage that like every pitcher is going to have a handful of bad starts every season. So I'm just like trying to tell myself glass half full, like they all did it at once. That's just the reality. So now it's only going to get better from here, right? Because like in reality, if we look at every pitcher we have, even the Luzardo disaster we've had, which we've experienced, and it has been a roller coaster still since then. But if you look at the overall stat line, like it's kind of around what people expected coming into the season, with like some had high expectations for him. If like you look at the projections, he might be a little behind projections, but he's not like far off. If that makes sense to what I'm trying to say. So in reality, for what we were trying to accomplish, he was overachieving so much. That was just one example. A lot took place last week, so it kind of felt like a barrage of just what could go wrong, did go wrong. I'm trying to tell myself we still have like 2.5 to 3 months to go. It's only going to get better from here. It's also going to get hotter, and the ball's going to fly a lot more. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
more injuries and more replacement pitchers that we'll be filling our staffs with. More questionable decisions, but that's what happens.
Yeah, we'll get into the FAAB. I remember I was prepping for my article, and I put it in the Discord. I was like, man, the first run at filling out the players I'm going to write up for the week, pitching sucks this week. Like it was bad for FAAB. So hopefully it gets better, but I have a feeling it's only going to get worse, my friend. Only going to get worse. All right, let's recap a little bit of news here before we get into the FAAB from the week, and we'll start in the Bronx. Your team, your neck of the woods there with Clark Schmidt. They're still getting the second opinion, but I think we can all kind of see Tommy John coming Clark Schmidt's way as he left his last start. And the mouthful is what we're going to call him. Cam Schlittler is expected to make his MLB debut this week. I can read off a bunch of stats, and I will eventually, but what are you hearing, seeing, hoping for with one of your guys' top pitching prospects?
I never heard of him until recently, to be honest with you. But apparently he throws really hard. I pulled up his minor league stats, so maybe I could do this for you. But at least in 2025, he's a 2.82 ERA in 76 innings. Not a lot of – I mean, that's about commensurate with like what the majors are doing, guys in the majors are doing right now. 99 strikeouts in those 76 innings, which is a really good ratio. Whip's a little high, 1.21. He seemed to have a little bit more of a walk issue in 2024, Schlittler. At least I said the end of it right.
So we were going to do it on the beginning, right out the gate.
Schlittler.
I'm just going to call him the mouthful.
Yeah, I'll just call him Cam for now until we're done with talking about him.
Think about Super Jurors. Schlitz. I want 6 Schlitz. It's just Schlitz. We're going to call him Schlitz.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, that's still a little close to what I said already, but yeah. Last year he had a 3.36 ERA, so pretty good numbers. very good strikeout rates, and I think that's going to make him appealing. So he's lined up to face it'd be the Mariners at home, which I feel like you'd rather face the Mariners in Seattle, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll be a first look for them. I mean, we saw Chase Burns dominate in his first outing, and Logan Henderson dominated in his first outings. So it's just hard for the major league hitters when they haven't seen a rookie pitcher to adjust. So it's not like he's going to be potentially bombed by the Mariners, but we'll see what happens. And I was looking at the Yankees roster resource, and I don't know who else it would be. Cole's out. I mean, he would be the immediate replacement, but I think they're working him back slowly. He probably needs a month of rehab to go. And then I think Winans is the other backup in case the mouthful or whatever you were calling him is ineffective. But we'll wait and see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to watching that start. Definitely.
Yeah, it's Luis Eel, I guess quickest he'll get there is the end of this month. It's more likely an early August type thing with Luis. He's throwing off a mound, but they're totally taking it slow, like you mentioned. So it seems like it's Schlitz's situation to handle here coming up. And to give a plug to the Patreon, if you look at the minor league leaderboard, he made 5 starts at AA and 5 starts at AAA. If I'm reading, no, never mind. He had 53 innings at AA and 23 2/3 at AAA this season. Much better at AA, but still not bad at AAA. A 3.8 ERA, 1.23 WHIP. But what we saw is a 36% K rate and 27% K to walk at AAA compared to a 22% K to walk at AA. Both supported by a 15% swinging strike rate and a low 32% ball rate. So that is very, very good from a young arm, and a ground ball rate over 46%. So it's one of those, to your point, the whip can be a concern with him from time to time, but the overall skill set looks pretty good. Young pitcher, though, we never know how it's going to work. Can you imagine making your debut in the Bronx, for crying out loud? There's a lot of, I'm just going to say, nerves that might be taking place on that debut. But to your point, he should be sticking around for a bit. So could be a big FAAB situation this weekend when there shouldn't be a whole lot because of the All-Star break. But Schlitz could make the list. Rhys Hoskins goes to the IL with a grade 2 thumb sprain. Our buddy Andrew Vaughn is back up in the big leagues, actually starting on Monday against Yamamoto, which surprised me a bit because I expected Vaughn to platoon with Jake Bauers. We'll see how it continues to play out over time. But what are your thoughts here? Because first off, with Hoskins, we heard grade 2. We haven't heard time frame yet. Second, thoughts on Andrew Vaughn?
Well, grade 2, I think we've been hearing lately, that's typically 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, regardless of what the actual muscle is. So, I mean, he's probably a drop, right, Hoskins?
Yeah. If it's 4 to 6 weeks, that's why I'm just holding out hope, because the early reports from the Brewers were, okay, if it's a grade 1, we think he can play through it, is what they were saying. So hearing grade 2, I want to hear something from them before I drop him. But to your point, by Sunday, probably going to end up being a drop, yes.
Yeah, and then going back to Vaughn, so I was pulling up the standings, so I'm not really in tune with all the other divisions like I am with the East and the AL East, but Milwaukee's 15-40 and they're second in the Central, and I'm assuming they're in play for a wild card berth. Yep. Yeah, they're the second wild card team right now, so they want to win, and I think Vaughn gives them the best chance to win versus Jake Bauers, because Jake Bauers has been like a fill-in for them and many other teams. Even the Yankees tried him out at one point. He's 30. Vaughn's only 20. He's not much younger at 27, but he has a lot more upside, I think. He's had pretty productive years before this year in Chicago, and roster resource has it at Bauers being the head of the platoon, but like you said, Vaughn starting tonight versus a righty. I think they're at least going to give him. I think it would make sense for the Brewers to give Vaughn a shot to prove that he's doing something. He can do something this week, and then maybe something will change after the All-Star break. But let's wait and see how the playing time is, because we said many times on the show that first base has been horrible this year, especially in 15s. I think 12s has probably been challenging too to find good production from the position. So if Vaughn is back, and that's a good park to hit in, I think he could be a decent waiver ad going into the All-Star break.
Agreed. It's been a rough go for him at AAA, but still, it's a skill set that I'm a fan of. To your point, and I'd be willing to see how that plays out in a new scenery, not with that bad, wonderful clubhouse in Chicago. All right, Andres Jimenez. He heads to the IL, and this seems like a not great one. He basically reactivated his ankle injury. That's what it comes down to. Jimenez will be in a walking boot for the next 5 to 7 days before being reevaluated. The Jays hope to have a timeline once the boot comes off, but the early reports doesn't sound great from Andres Jimenez. David Schneider should play a lot more in his absence. What are you doing with Jimenez, though? Because I know you have some interest in him. Ryan Bloomfield has some interest with him if you're still listening, buddy, and a few others. So what's your thoughts on Jimenez?
He's becoming one of my most annoying players to roster because on my main event that's been doing really well most of the year, I have him on my bench with a 471 average, a homer, and 2 steals and 17 at bats. So I've missed probably his best stretches of the season on my bench, and then otherwise he's hitting. So this is me gonna talk about my teams real quickly. He's hitting 196 for me on the year, Jimenez, and I'm just missing the hot spots because of, I don't know. It's just been really frustrating to roster him this year. And hearing the walking boot was not very good. It was not very, didn't make me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside when I heard that, because usually a walking boot means something kind of severe. If it's a mild sprain, you maybe crutches or you kind of just can walk through it, but a boot is pretty serious. But if they're going to evaluate it in 5 to 7 days, that's not very long from now. I guess the silver lining is that we have the All-Star break coming up, so you won't be missing as many games if it's just a minimum stay or maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks with him. But I think just for the speed, you kind of have to try to hold him. That's what I'm doing. I need steals on this team in terms of probably steals and average. And Jimenez should be an okay average contributor. It hasn't been for me, like I just said, but the steals should be there, even though he didn't really steal much when he came back from his last IL stint, which was kind of annoying. But I think, well, at least in a deeper league, definitely like how I'm talking about, definitely try to hold him. But in a 12, I don't know. I'd have to see what the options are. But he has that. He was going in the top, like around 150 for a reason. So I think if you can hold Jimenez, you should try to.
Yeah, I get that if you can, for sure. In a 12, you could probably drop him. At a 15, I totally get trying to hold him if you can and see where it goes. But, or again, we should hopefully have news by the weekend. So that should help make that decision a lot easier for you.
Yep.
Lane Thomas of the Guardians was placed on the IL with right foot plantar fasciitis. It's the second time this year he's landed on the IL with right foot plantar fasciitis. Will Wilson was recalled. That doesn't do much for me because Chase Delauder's still in AAA. I'm pretty much giving up on Lane. I was already out on Lane Thomas, I guess. But this, to me, if you are still rostering him, feels like the last straw. Then
it does. He was available in a main event or two for me, and I didn't have very aggressive bids trying to add him. I never got Thomas when he was available. But yeah, he's in 160 on the year. His OPS is barely above 500. It's been a horrible year for him, and plantar fasciitis doesn't really go away. So I think he's probably a safe drop, to your point.
Yep, most definitely. All right, let's talk Gary Sanchez. The Orioles just keep losing catchers. It's not great, Bob. Sanchez was placed on the IL with a right knee sprain. They're saying it's minor, but we'll see. You still have to squad as a catcher. So that makes things difficult. I don't even want to talk about the replacement options in Baltimore because it's that bad right now. But if, let's just say you're rostering Gary Sanchez, what are you doing here? Because, again, we talked like a couple weeks ago, you could take zeros at catchers potentially, and it's fine. But Sanchez has been so darn good. At the same time, when he comes back, Adley might be close as well.
It's very true. I would just cut him because I think what we got from Gary, if you did roster him, was like the best possible scenario. And I was expecting him to come back down to earth because I don't know if it may have been one of the shows that we cut. I think it was before last week, so we covered on the show. But I added Gary in a league, and I've cut him already, so I was not going to hold on to him.
Yep, I cut him last night. We'll talk about that in a minute because I wasn't going to, and then I started thinking about the Adley part of it. I'm like, you know what? If Adley has a setback, I'll try to re-add Gary some other time. But we're just going to move on, take those at-bats, and see where things go. So I'm with you as well. It was a heck of a run.
It was a good ad already, so it's not a bad thing to drop him.
Yeah, but we're money ahead. Let's move on and see where it goes. All right, Pavin Smith. This one was a gut punch to some of the Discord there. Pavin Smith was placed on the IL with an oblique strain. We still do not know the severity of the injury. Tristan English was recalled from AAA. I know you were kind of already nervous about Corbin Carroll returning and ruining your Jake McCarthy. McCarthy's in the lineup on Monday, by the way. So is Alec Thomas and so is Corbin Carroll. That's a sign of something good for you. So what's your thoughts on this injury situation?
I had Smith in the main event, and I cut him. Even in that, he's probably a streamer because of the platooning, that he's as strict of a platoon player as there is. So it's so like you already mentioned it. The biggest takeaway for me was that Jake McCarthy now probably plays every day, at least against righties, because I was ready to drop McCarthy, and then I saw the Pavin Smith news. I go, oh wow, okay, well I'm deleting all my bids where I'm dropping McCarthy because he's going to be either the DH or the outfield or the other outfielder now, and they're probably going to rotate through Lourdes, Carroll, McCarthy, and Thomas versus righties to the 3 outfielder spots in the DH. So I think that's the move. McCarthy had a homer and a steal last week. He's a pretty decent average asset. I mean, he started out the year horribly, but historically he's been pretty good for average. Should steal, and I know you said it with the FAAB show, but he does have sneaky pop. As like the one homer that he did hit over the last week went pretty far, McCarthy. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty happy to have him, and I hopefully, well, not for Pavin's sake, but hopefully for my sake, that he's out for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned in the Discord when the news dropped, I'm like, well, I already had Pavin Smith on my drop list this week, and I know there's a handful of righties coming up, but I had other options, and Pavin, just even with the platoon advantage, has not been playing well right now. Like I like the skill set, but it's been a rough go for Pavin Smith. So in 12 teams, he was a drop for me. 15s, it all depended, but the IL stat made it a clear drop situation there, and Jake McCarthy lives on. Jameson Taillon over the weekend hit the IL with a calf strain, a pretty serious right calf strain. So serious that Craig Counsell expects Jameson Taillon to miss a significant amount of time, more than a month, with the injury. Jordan Wicks was recalled from AAA. If you're a Jameson Taillon manager, what are you doing here?
Yeah, this one was surprising when I saw the outline, because I don't have Taillon anywhere, and I did not hear about this. Yeah, it's saying August. Definitely in a 12, you can cut him. Probably even in a 15, I cut him at this point too, because that's almost half the season at best case scenario that's left. And he's not a big strikeout pitcher, Taillon. He had a really good whip. 111 is awesome. The ERA was high, but it wouldn't kill you if he's your SP7. It's 4.44. He's been getting a good amount of wins, but a calf is a pretty serious injury, and a month. Them just saying a month already is pretty dooming, or I guess, for him being back quickly. So I think he's a drop. If he's your only IL stash, maybe you hold on to him, but I think I'd be fine dropping Taillon. And then I was looking at the Cubs rotation when I saw that, and they have, at least per RotoWire, Flexen would be stepping in to fill his spot. But
they did a bullpen with Flexen the other day. Went Pomeranz open with Flexen coming from behind, and did not end well.
Oh, that's why Pomeranz was starting. I did see that he started the other day, and I was like, what is this, 2015? Yep. But Wicks was in the bullpen the other day. I saw that.
Yep.
That could have been the same game. Actually, it was the day after. But I mean, I don't know if Ben Brown's coming back up, because I think they really wanted to work on him in the minors. And then I guess, I don't know, there's Kenta Maeda, but he's kind of been stuck in the bullpen. I don't know what they would do. Definitely, I feel like they're going to make a trade at some point, it seems like now.
They kind of have to, it feels like, if they want to keep this thing going, because they're running out of time and running out of arms right now. But yeah, to your Taillon point, drop. Mm-hmm. See where it goes from there. All right, let's talk FAAB pickups from the week. And again, not the flashiest of weeks, but some interesting moves nonetheless. And for those that keep track at home, we're talking NFBC OC's 12-team leagues, because most people play 10s and 12s. We will definitely highlight the 15s as well, especially players that cover both aspects. But most of the top ads in OCs were already gone in main events. So it kind of defeats the purpose there. So, Ben, let's break the rules. Let's go right out the gate with a Miami Marlins closer. Ronnie Enriquez picked up in 201 leagues, as high as 103, as low as $2. This was quite the move when it came to Ronnie Enriquez, because this is the guy people picked up for a while. Then Fauché got the ad, so they dropped him. Now he's back. He picked up 3 saves this past week. He has a 2.72 ERA. He has 5 saves and 5 wins, Ben. He has a 24.3% K to walk to go with a 17% swinging strike. He's actually been pretty dang good. So where are you at on Ronnie Enriquez?
Well, he was also pretty damn good back in week 10 and 11 when he was added the first time. Yeah, and then he was dropped in week 12 in all my leagues. So there's I wish we could cut the audio from when we talked about Fauché however long ago, because I would just say the exact same things. Because people were like they were so confident that Fauché was the closer now, and then look what's happening. I mean, we cycled through Fauché and Tinoco, then Tinoco got hurt. Then Fauché was the guy. I think Bender got saves. Then we went to Ronnie the first time. Then we went away from him again, back to Fauché, and now everyone who's adding him is getting duped again by the Marlins. So if you spent $100, I hope you could afford it, because I don't see him getting all the saves from here on out, because it hasn't been that way all year. No matter who the closer has been, I'm doing the air quotes because the Marlins don't have one. So as I know he's good, but he's not the closer because they don't have a closer. He didn't get the last save. He got the win, and then someone got a save after him. So,
Ronnie Enriquez was added in 29 main event leagues, as high as 155, as low as 43. So people in the main events were all in on him. I could see the appeal if you believe he's the closer. To your point, I agree with everything you just said. I added some Ronnie Enriquez this week. We'll get to that later. I broke the rule. Didn't spend $100 on him, but I broke the rule, and I'll elaborate on that when we discuss our ad drops. But to your point, if it's always a mess, but I agree if people did want to spend a little to get him, because there really weren't many other closing options, period, out there. So there was that there for some reason they say, hey, he is our guy. Who knows? They'll probably trade him tomorrow to screw it all up, but. What if he is the guy for 2 to 3 months? Like that's a big time closer, because he has an electric, they said the 17% swing and strike, the near 25% K to walk, really strong stuff that Fauché does not have, the good doctor. But to your point, the biggest problem is you have to have the role to get the success. That's been the problem in Miami. But I get the massive amounts of pickups. Price is always the issue. We say that every show. People probably get annoyed by now, but I get it. That's kind of the point of this discussion. But I get the move. I get the move nonetheless. Just buyer beware is kind of what Ben was going around, that this could be another drop in a couple of weeks. All right. Trevor Rogers picked up in 100. I didn't know Ryan rostered 107 OCs. That's impressive. Trevor Rogers was picked up in 107 leagues, as high as $75, as low as $1. To be fair, Trevor Rogers has been pretty darn good of late, to be fair. But you put some fun stats in the Discord, Ben. Would you like to elaborate at all on Trevor Rogers in this move this week?
Yeah, I can do that. So this could be one of those scenarios where everyone misses out on the good Trevor Rogers, because, to your point, he had 3 really good starts in a row. He had 8 scoreless versus the Rangers, then he had 2 runs and 5 1/3 versus the Rangers again. He had the win in the first start, then he got a win versus the Braves. 6 2/3 scoreless on yesterday. So he had a very nice 2-step week, Trevor Rogers. But I forget who it was. One of the patrons in the Discord asked if it was a BABIP type thing with him, and I had the answer to that question. So I think I pulled this before the last start. But Rogers had a 10.9 K- walk percentage, which is not good. That's definitely below average. And the person who asked the question was correct, because his BABIP was 227 against, which is very fortunate. But a couple of the other negatives for Rogers, the Sierra was 4.30 during this 3-week period I looked at, and the hard hit against was 51.1%. So very high hard hit, not the best Sierra, but the swing strike was pretty good, 12.9%, and he was missing bats in the zone, 77.6% Z contact, which was very good over that 3-week period. So there's been some positives, some minuses, but the K- walk and the BABIP against are probably the 2 biggest deterrents against Rogers for how he's going to do going forward. But I mean, there's, like, we just lost Clark Schmidt now. There's so many injuries that you kind of just have to take a stab at who's ever performing right now. So it makes sense to add Rogers. I mean, he's got a 1.57 ERA and a 0.87 WHIP, but when your BABIP's that low, you're going to have a good ERA and good WHIP for sure. Looking at this week, he's facing the Marlins. So that's like, the Marlins are okay, but it's still a good matchup. So I think you play him for this week for sure. I did it in a spot or 2. But yeah, it could get ugly quickly if some of the luck factors turn around for Rogers. But he's definitely a good ad.
Yeah, it's a fair ad. He has like a top 2021 best schedule over the next few weeks. According to the weekly planner, the Marlins have an 85 WRC plus versus lefties on the season. Obviously much better of late, but good role there. I love to give Rogers a hard time. I agree. He's been lucky, but still been very good. To your point, pitching has been so bad. You have to take chances on guys like this, because I shouldn't be able to talk. I've been rostering Patrick Corbin for over a month in a lot of leagues because he continually has like good matchups and he hasn't crushed you at all. And Rodgers probably has better strikeout upside than Corbin. I'll admit that right out the gate. Corbin struck out more in his last outing, but usually not a ton there. But he limits damage and gets you through 5 or 6 and you move on compared to the blow-ups we experienced last week, Ben, we started the show with. Corbin has been great in that regard, but I wouldn't I'd still take other guys over Corbin every day of the week. I'm just saying that's how bad pitching is, to your point, is like Trevor Rodgers deserves to be rostered right now. As much flack as I want to give him, I don't have any shares. It's probably still a blind spot on my part. I'm waiting for the blow-up to take place, but all these pitchers are blowing up, so you need to take your chances, and Rodgers, if anything, does bring some strikeout appeal. So I can definitely see some arguments for that. The third most added player in NFBC OCs. And this is where we are at this time of the year, Ben. It's a combination, I think, of people not paying attention as the season goes on, and also just kind of a murky player pool. We only had 2 players picked up in over 100 OCs. That has not happened in a while, it feels like, Ben. So just something I'd keep an eye, just looking at just initial glances at stuff. And we only had like 4 players over 9. Like it's dwindling quickly. Tyler O'Neill picked up in 97 leagues. Now, he might have been held in some. We'll see. But $51 max uno dollar for the men for Tyler O'Neill. He came back on Friday on July 4th. He's played in 2 games. He has hits in both games. He has a home run on Saturday. He got Sunday off for the Orioles. I think we know who O'Neill is. He's going to get hurt eventually at some point, but he could also hit 15 home runs before that time. Who knows? Where are we at on Tyler O'Neill this week?
He was available in one of my main events, I believe. I did have a bid in for O'Neill, but because of my FAAB where it's at, I didn't want him out. I couldn't be too aggressive just because of the injury history and the risk of him getting hurt again. So, but it makes sense. Yeah, you basically said it right there with the power. He could go off for a pretty good homer binge and really give you a nice boost. Or he could be on the IL again in a week. It's a pretty extreme possible outcomes for O'Neill, unfortunately. But yeah, and to your point about the FAAB, I mean, I think the main event was the same way. It's just that all the rosterable players seem to be rostered at this point in the year. It is July, and then there's people are low on FAAB and football. You hear football ads now, so it's a few factors. But yeah, it's definitely different than how it was throughout the year for sure. But O'Neill is he's a good gamble to take at this point, and if you need power, it definitely makes sense to add him.
Totally agree. I think I picked up 1 O'Neill share this past week. Ha-Seong Kim, 4th most added player in OCs, picked up in 91 leagues, as high as 42, as low as $1. 2nd most added player in main events in 39 leagues, Ben, as high as 96, as low as $2. So a lot of cheapies went through for Ha-Seong Kim. Came back from the IL on Friday, immediately hurt his calf. Still not in the lineup on Monday. So not sure how to feel about this one, because I did pick up a few Kim shares, because I do believe he has game-changing ability, even with the shoulder injury, and we're at that time of the year. But I don't have a whole lot else to go off of. So what do you got on Ha-Seong Kim, Ben?
He wasn't available for me to add in any of my 4 FAAB leagues, but I did look him up because of the steals potential. And yeah, it's pretty bad timing that he hurt his calf right when he gets back. Kind of ironic. But remember when he was a debate to draft because he was going to be back in May, I think. And look, it's July and he's finally back. But this is another. I mean, I'm guilty of drafting Sean Manaea, and I never dropped him either. And so I'm bad on myself for breaking my own rule. But this is another reason why you should probably avoid guys who are starting out the year injured, because things can happen, whether it's the same injury or they get hurt another way. Look at Brandon Woodruff. He got hurt like 8 times trying to come back from his shoulder injury. But I think the playing time with Kim is maybe questionable because the Rays love Taylor Walls for his defense, but they did go out and sign Kim, I believe. They did sign him, which is very shocking for the Rays to do. So they definitely liked him. Roster Resource actually has Kim as the shortstop, even though he's only played 1 game since he's been back, but that's because of the injury, we know. So he seems like the starter going forward. That 1 year was definitely an outlier, it seems like. I don't know how good his average will be or the power, but he probably should have a 30 steal pace going forward from here on out, as long as his calf's fine. But of course, with the calf injury, it might keep him from stealing. So then he's pretty useless at that point if that's what happens.
Yeah, that's why I was just laughing at myself. Like, well, we'll see how this goes. Thought it was a minimal injury, still sitting. So they're probably taking it slow, all things considered, but it's still not ideal when he's there. But would love to get that bat back in the lineup. All right, the next most added player in OC, Zach Geloff, picked up in 89 leagues, as high as 109, as low as $1. I had a lot of Zach Geloff this week. I had the 2 highest bids in OCs at $88. We'll talk about those later. I also had money to spend, and I want to make sure I got my guy because I guess I'll give my explanation here. This is a guy that's we've seen go 14-14 and 17-25. Average is always the concern with him. 1,000% understand that. Totally get it. But to get power and speed in a home ballpark like that, I'll take my chances for 3 months. That's why I was aggressive on Geloff. I understand the downsides to him that everyone's been preaching. What are your thoughts on Zach Geloff? And you can be totally honest and tell me I'm a complete moron.
Well, I remember you saying you had a lot of FAAB to burn, so this makes sense why you were aggressive with your guy. So I can't really fault you there. I think Geloff was at the top of my one bid list where he was available. And we'll get into the other AI that I added this week because of their home series. They have 6 games at home this week. So that was appealing. And then just the steals with the power is very appealing when it comes to Geloff. Of course, this year he has 5 Ks and 10 at-bats, so it's very Geloff-ish right off the bat. But he was projected for 17 and 21 per at least the projection that NFBC is using right here on his player page. But if you can afford the average hit from Geloff, it makes sense to go after him. If you need definitely speed and then hopefully power, because I wanted to add him for the speed. So I think he's a good ad. It makes more sense in 12s because he's more of the boom or bust play. In a 15, you kind of really want him to be more of a guaranteed thing, as guaranteed as it could get. And he certainly is not that type of player at this point in his career. But like I said, if you need power and average, or definitely not average, if you need power and steals, then Geloff was a good ad.
Yep, that's where I sat on that one. Jake Berger picked up in 72 leagues, as high as 77, as low as $1. Got my fair share of Berger this week as well. Again, had money to burn, and I saw a couple of potential difference makers. Berger came back on the IL on July 2nd from his oblique injury. He's got 5 hits over 4 games, 1 run scored, nothing else but a 13.3% K rate. Super small sample, Ben, but this is also a guy we know that has had big second halves. When he's good, he's really good. He hasn't been good in a while, though, this season. So what are your thoughts on Jake Berger?
I'm kind of surprised he was dropped in so many leagues.
So was I when I was making bids. Trust me, I was like, "Whoa, this is interesting."
Yeah, I mean, it was just a week that he basically missed. So,
yep.
I bet you whoever dropped him.
I think people saw oblique and they're like, "Another oblique injury?" Like, I'm out. But yeah.
So this was the oblique and not the minor league thing. That was
it was minor league the first time. He's had obliques in the past, so it's probably a few situations here.
Oh yeah, that is a quick turnaround. I forgot about the oblique injury. That's kind of surprising, honestly. So okay, maybe I take that back a little bit. Maybe because of the past history of the oblique, I could see someone just saying, "Okay, he hasn't been that good this year. I'm just gonna cut him." But yeah, it's add him right back for sure because it's hard to find that power on the waiver wire, and I think he's 1st and 3rd eligible, which is also very nice. And even had a steal so far this year, so he could get you a stray steal here or there. But yeah, I like Berger going into the draft season. I just never really got him because of how my drafts fell. So I guess I kind of dodged the bullet with that. But in terms of FAAB, great target.
Yeah, big fan of what Berger has to offer and hoping he can get things going. I like the idea of him getting 5 hits in the first 4 games. So he's hitting for average. Now let's get the power go. Let's look a little deeper here real quick. Over those 4 games, 8.3% barrel, 33% hard hits. So you'd like to see more, but even if he can hit for a decent average, you can roll with that for a bit with Mr. Berger.
Only 2 Ks, so that's good.
Yep, like that quite a bit. Yu Darvish, we're going to talk pitching here again. Picked up in 72 leagues, as high as $77, as low as $1 in OCs. It was only available in 2 main event leagues. Yu Darvish was announced on Sunday. He'll make his season debut on Monday, get a 2-step this week. Be ready for about 75 pitches on Monday. By the time we're done recording, he will have not taken the mound. So we'll see how this goes. He has not had a rehab start since May 14th. Let's keep that in mind as well, Ben. What are your thoughts on Yu Darvish?
Well, pretty tough 2-step to come back to. It's Diamondbacks tonight on Monday, and then the Phillies on Saturday. So welcome to the majors, Yu. And the injury itself is kind of concerning. He's like 37, 38 with an elbow injury. Throws a ton of pitches, probably puts a lot of strain on the elbow. That's why why we're at where we're at. And I mean, I had Yu in in my first DC, and that team's been destroyed pitching wise. So I had to start him. I know it was that or like an awful reliever. So I went with Yu because I had nothing to lose. But yeah, last year I thought he was a pretty interesting draft target where he was going because of how good he looked last year when he did pitch. But then the age and the injuries kind of stopped me from drafting him, luckily. But I think we had the same conversation last year where he came back from his injury, and I was hesitant or skeptical to say that I was just skeptical about how he could help down the stretch, and I think he did really well last year, Darvish. So I could see that happening again this year, but he hasn't pitched yet at all. So maybe he has to get ramped up to get to that point. But he could be a game changer down the stretch here if he is healthy and he is relatively productive or effective going down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I know I put bids in. I think I got a share or two, nothing crazy. I had shares earlier this year, dropped them again after the last setback. I know when he's if healthy is the big question. They're just going to run him out there because the Padres ain't pitching badly. We just got a report on Michael King on Monday that he's going to start throwing it on 120 feet flat ground and hopefully throw an off and on limited bullpen later this week. Hopefully that'd be the start of a comeback. I think I actually dropped my Michael King share this week because I needed pitching. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. And Yu Darvish could help quite a bit in this situation. So time will tell. Indeed. This one surprised me a bit, but again shows the situation we're at with pitching. Andre Palante picked up in 67 leagues, as high as 25, as low as $1. Palante set to face the Nats and the Braves this week. He's allowed 3 earned runs or less over his last 5 starts, which is really good. Just not a big strikeout guy, but ratios have been there, I guess. So he's kind of a right-handed Patrick Corbin, Ben. What's your thoughts on Mr. Palante, who was not even really on my radar because I get the Braves bats have struggled, the Nats are the Nats, but the Braves are waking up, it feels like, and the Nats can get you at any moment.
Yeah, I had the decision in my 1DC where I had Palante. I ended up starting him because, over the last 3 weeks, the Braves have a 91 WRC plus versus righties, and then the Nationals are 99, but they haven't been striking out a lot. The Nationals less than a 19% K rate versus righties in that time, which is not ideal. The Braves are at 23%, so about average probably. But Pallante's been pitching pretty well. He's kind of the NL version of the guy in the Cubs that Ryan always Assad. I feel like Assad and Pallante are very similar pitchers.
That's fair.
But Pallante has been much better this year. Well, actually, there was a point when Pallante's swing strike rate was pretty high, but the Ks aren't there, 63 and 94 and a third. So you're going to be gambling with the contact whenever you start him because he's had 3 and 2 Ks the last 2 inning or combined outings, and that's a total of 12 innings over that point. So 5 Ks in 12 innings is not very good at all, especially with 4 walks. So 5 to 4 K to walk rate. But the results have been there, so that's probably what people are chasing. And then he's had the 2 start week, so maybe he'll get 1 start's worth of strikeouts in his 2 starts. We'll see. But kind of the same thing with Trevor Rogers, but Pallante's a lot worse than Trevor Rogers. It's just if you're desperate for pitching, here's a appealing 2 start week based on the matchups, and the Cardinals could give him some decent run support. So it makes sense. It's definitely more of a 15-team type stream. I don't know if I would do this in a 12-teamer.
Yep. You're
kind of hoping for a lot that it could be an ugly blow up for him this week. Just be careful. But especially in 12s, like we're talking about right now, you should probably drop Pallante after this week.
Yes, he's definitely a pitch him and ditch him type guy
Yep.
throughout the rest of the season, and a name that we'll probably mention a few times on this show the rest of the way. And there'll be a lot more pitchers like that throughout the rest of the season. Eric Lauer was picked up in 64 leagues, as high as $29, as low as $1. Lauer's been pretty good of late. He allowed 2 earned runs in his last start against the Angels in 6 innings of 6 Ks. He's made 5 starts since rejoining the rotation, 3 earned runs or less on all 5. He's got at least 5 innings in 3 out of the 5. And he gets the White Sox this week, which makes him a very appealing stream. So I'm about that. And unlike Pallante, I think Lauer might actually have some viability for you in fantasy going forward.
I do have him in 3 of my 4 FAAB leagues, so I am a big Lauer fan. And he was a no doubt start for me this week because of, like you said, the White Sox, and that means he's going to get crushed because that's how things are going lately. The only thing, though, I was looking at his underlying metrics for the last 3 weeks, kind of the same period I was looking at for Rogers earlier. Lauer's swing strike is only 9.6%, which is not good, but he's getting a lot of Ks. His K rate was 27.1%, not walking a lot of batters. So at least he's keeping the walks down, and that's really driving his success, I think. And I don't know if the Ks can sustain. His CSW is almost 27%, so maybe he's getting a lot of called strikes, and that's kind of helping him out. But the swing strike has to improve for him to kind of keep up this pace. But at least for now, while he has good matchups, he's definitely an easy start for me going forward.
Yep.
I just hope that
With
Bowden Francis doesn't screw up his spot in the rotation. That's the only
if
thing.
Bowden Francis does that, then the Jays have other problems on their hands. Like that's
In terms of real life baseball, it's great for the Yankees. He's gonna get crushed then every time he pitches, and they're probably gonna lose. So, but for fantasy, I want Lauer in the rotation for sure.
totally agree. Like Francis should be nowhere near a star every fifth day starter for any team right about now. All right, we got to him, and we'll get to him a lot more next week probably because he'll be available elsewhere. Joe Boyle. Joe Boyle was picked up in 63 leagues, as high as 120, as low as $2. Boyle was called up on Sunday to be the piggybacker to Drew Rasmussen. He threw 5 innings, did not allow a run, struck out 7, looked absolutely dominant. We've been calling for Joe Boyle for quite some time. At AAA this year in 73 innings, a 1.85 ERA, a .99 WHIP. He had a 22% K to walk, 18% swinging strike, and a 52% ground ball rate. Dude was just outstanding, and there's no reason he should not be starting for the Jays or for the Rays. But for now, he gets the piggyback, which could be even better, Ben. So where were you at on Joe Boyle? Because he was not available in a ton of my leagues.
Yeah, I couldn't add him anywhere. He was going in all 4 of my FAAB leagues, so I missed out on the Joe Boyle fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that of all the teams, it's the Rays who have been able to figure out his control issues. It seems like so far. He could be pretty filthy going forward, and it seems like So you mentioned the piggybacking. I'm guessing he'll be piggybacking off of Rasmussen, who they're going to be winding down because he has like 60 innings left on his year-to-date limit of I think 150 is what I saw for Rasmussen.
Yep.
But I don't know if they're going to just run him out every day and then just control the innings so that Rasmussen lasts the rest of the year, or there's going to be like, well, I mean, if they're going to be in the playoffs or at least in contention, I guess it makes sense to have him pitching throughout September. But if he has a hard stop and they make the playoffs, and I guess Rasmussen won't be on the team for the playoffs, which I don't know. I mean, it's just weird how they're going to allocate the remaining innings. That's just why I'm bringing this up right now. I don't know what their plan is, but as long as Boyle's on the major league roster, he probably has value because if he is following, then he's in line for the win. And there's been worse followers that have been fantasy relevant. So it makes sense to add Boyle, and he could be a lot more than just a follower going forward.
And to your point, the Rays could do a lot of goofy stuff to screw this up, but on paper, Boyle should be somewhere in that mix. And they'd be really like Taj Bradley shouldn't like I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but Boyle needs to be pitching. Let's put it that way for the Rays, not in AAA. Nolan Gorman, people have finally jumped on this train a little late to the party. I know way gone in main events. It should have been gone in OCs. Gorman was picked up in 61 leagues, as high as 23, as low as $1. Talked about him in recent shows. Gorman's playing versus lefties and righties, which is great. He's playing a lot of second base, or he's playing third base and DH now, but he's got the second base, third base eligibility. Dude's hitting home runs all over the yard. He's only hitting 220 on the year, but 8 home runs. So, like, you don't expect Gorman to hit for average, but the power's there. Since June 1st, he's hitting 250 with 7 of those home runs, 15 runs and 18 RBIs. That's a good month plus from Nolan Gorman, and a reason he should have been rostered a lot more often before this past week.
Yeah, I missed out on Gorman. I was kind of burned by him last year when I streamed him, and then he went 0 for 4 on the Monday, and then he got sent down on that Tuesday. So I got nothing from him. I was like, this guy is terrible. But so I pulled up Gorman's StatCast. XBA is 22nd percentile, 237. K percentage is 28.6, which is 6th percentile.
Which is good for him, though.
It's probably a career low.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Not even being funny.
It's called an improvement.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Yes.
But his xWOBA is trailing up towards 400 on a little 100 PAs rolling xWOBA that Fangraphs has, or Baseball Savant has for their hitters. So that's a good sign. Yeah, I guess the biggest point, and you called it out, was that he's hitting versus lefties. I mean, he did sit yesterday, but that was 2 in a row again. So it's probably a day off because he had played like basically 2 weeks straight, it looks like, at one point between third and DH. Yeah, so it seems like he's full-time player right now, Gorman, and I don't know who. Well, I guess it depends on what happens when Herrera comes back, because that was the big question. Herrera was DHing a lot because they like Pages' defense. So Arenado's going to play third if he's healthy. He's missed a few games with injury lately, it looks like, based on the tracker. And then second base is Donovan, who's been their leadoff hitter. So once Herrera is back, it could be it for Gorman. Just be wary of that. But if you need power for now, just play him and just be careful. I'd be ready to cut him if he starts sitting or something else happens once Herrera's back.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is to kind of see how that plays out. The other thing I would look at when it comes to the St. Louis Cardinals, I want to pull this up real quick for the playing time, is Thomas Sagase. He's been playing a ton of late, it feels like. He's been playing a lot of third base when Nolan Gorman DHs. So I would keep that one on the list of things to keep in mind. But yeah, when Herrera comes back, things could definitely change in a big, big way. All right, Caleb Durbin. Caleb Durbin picked up in 60 leagues, as high as 31, as low as $1 since June 1st. Durbin's hitting 298 with 3 homers, 3 stolen bases, and 20 runs scored, Ben. I'd say he's starting to figure it out. What are your thoughts on Mr. Caleb Durbin?
Yeah, he's he didn't get a lot of playing time last week, only 13 at bats, so I'm not sure what the case with that is. But 2 steals despite this limited playing time. He had 2 homers in the 2 weeks before that, had a steal also. So I guess you'd kind of hope for more than 8 steals in a year through 221 at bats for Durbin, but I think he's got the full-time job as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to pull up the tracker for the Brewers. Durbin's, he's basically playing third base all the time. So I guess the steal total is a little disappointing when you consider it that way, because it's not like he was sitting for a while and then that's why he was dropped. I guess he was dropped because he wasn't doing well, but now he's kind of hitting again, so it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, the average isn't really, well, he's hit for a pretty good average the last 4 weeks, but on the year it's 250, which isn't going to kill you, but it's kind of empty, like I was saying. So maybe just see if he's hot and he stays hot, and then he's kind of what we were hoping for. But I think Durbin could probably be I could see him being a pretty big drop in the next week or two, depending on what happens. But it makes sense to go for it right now.
Yeah, definitely a guy to run while he's hot and see where it goes from there. I think the run scored is tremendous. It's one of the stats that feels like we don't talk about enough when it comes to fantasy baseball. 20 runs scored in about a month's time is pretty good. The average is solid. Power and speed could be, like, we thought he'd run a lot more, so that's pretty surprising to see that take place. But let's see. Look, the fact he's getting comfortable at the plate, maybe that'll lead to more goodness in that one. A couple more here.
Your point real quick, Bubba. You mentioned the runs. He's been hitting 8th. That's kind of surprising that he has that many runs while hitting 8th. So that could regress back down depending on what happens with the Brewers offense. But it's surprising. It's good for him. I just don't know if it's sustainable.
Good point. Yeah. We were talking about not many closers available after Ronnie Enriquez. Well, here we go. Grant Taylor of the Chicago White Sox picked up in 57 leagues, as high as 81, as low as $1. Taylor picked up the save on the 4th, got blown up on the 2nd, live on air with myself and Ryan on Wednesday night. Picked up the save against the Giants. So he's got 3 saves, also has a 4.38 ERA. He's allowed 6 runs in 12 and a third innings, but has 14 Ks to 3 walks. We know I compared him to basically the Ricky Vaughn of the Chicago White Sox. Just filthy stuff, not always knowing where it's going is the best way I can put it. So I'm not really interested for 2 reasons, is volatility with him, not to mention the Chicago White Sox, but maybe I should, if I liked Enriquez, why wouldn't I like Grant Taylor? I don't know, but what's your thoughts on Mr. Grant Taylor?
I was going to ask you that question if you had bids in for Taylor, because you said you had Enriquez. So I'm much more confident saying that Taylor is the closer than I am with Enriquez. It's just a matter of how many opportunities between the two. I guess if the Marlins keep flip-flopping Enriquez back and forth like they've been doing with everybody else this year, then maybe it's a wash on who has more saves to finish the year. But Taylor has had a save each of the last 3 weeks, so that's saying that he's not gonna get a save every week going here on out, but he's definitely the guy. And you mentioned the K to walk numbers that he has, and I was honestly surprised that Taylor is actually available in so many OCs still. I thought, well,
you and me both, honestly.
It is the White Sox, I get that, but I don't know. He's pretty filthy. And it was the Dodgers, so you can kind of excuse that blow up. And he did handle Coors right after that, so that's pretty good. Even though the Rockies are terrible, it's still Coors though. You could get that up there pretty easily. So yeah, I don't want to say I'd rather have Taylor for saves over Enriquez, but at cost I definitely would. It's definitely a lot cheaper and less demand, it seems like, for Taylor. But I mean, they could be. I mean, well, the White Sox have been kind of pesky too. They haven't been like they were last year. But I don't know. Like Benintendi's there. They have Talkman we just talked about. I thought no, that was another team. But the White Sox have some players, and their pitching hasn't been that horrible, which is kind of odd to say. So I think there's a shot that Taylor could get more saves than Enriquez from here on out with probably comparable K numbers.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. That's why I love doing these shows, to make me feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I probably should have went to Taylor instead of Enriquez. The more I like, the Marlins just weren't.
Was he available though in those leagues that you had?
I'll have to go back and check. So I don't remember seeing him, honestly. I guess he should have shown up pretty close to Enriquez in those situations. I did not see him anywhere, so I'll have to go back and double check that one. But that does sting. You know what also stings for the White Sox is Andrew Vaughn hit a 3-run homer in his first at bat back off of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So that's good times in Milwaukee right there. Before we go to our ad drops, Ben, I want to highlight some of the top added players in the main event who we'll probably talk about in the coming weeks, but I want to hit on them first. Joey Cantillo was the most added player in main events, 47 leagues, as high as 53, as low as $1. I have a ton of Cantillo shares in DCs that I actually put into lineups this week, because that's where he doesn't have a red marker by him, which is important. Cantillo made the spot start for Mr. Lopez, or Ortiz, who is going to be gone for a while, I believe. Cantillo threw 3 1/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks, and was quite serviceable last year, Ben. So I was drafting him with the hopes he would join the rotation a lot earlier. He's here now and hopefully for a while. But what are your thoughts on Mr. Joey Cantillo?
I did the same thing in the 1DC where I had him. It was a long time coming, because he was like my SP 8 or 9 when I drafted him. I thought he'd be up pretty quickly, because the Guardians rotation was not good. I mean, it hasn't been that good throughout the year, but I thought there was a lot of chances for him to crack it, and for whatever reason, that it never happened. But yeah, I fabbed him in at least one league as well. We'll talk about that. And I think the Astros, so like it is the Astros, and then they have like all righties, which has been kind of talked about pretty heavily. Yeah, they've been kind of crushing lefties last 3 weeks, but the White Sox were an appealing matchup, and I think he is the Saturday start, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's the Sunday start, so hopefully he actually holds that Sunday start, because if he just gets the Astros and then something happens where he gets bumped from
not
Sunday,
as ideal.
That would not be good. I mean, he could shut out the Astros. You never know, because he looked pretty good in his first start back. The walks were kind of high, but it's his first start in a while, so I'm not going to hold that against Cantillo. But I think, he was a pretty attractive. He was definitely high up on most of my bid list. I don't know how many leagues I got him in. We'll run through it, but yeah, I was definitely a big target of mine this past Sunday.
Yep. He was in 15s very much an interesting pickup, and 12s probably more of a streamer for now. But I could see a world where he starts often. Like I like him more than Trevor Rogers long term. I was like that much right now, so that's something to maybe I should have grabbed the cheap share now. But yeah, I digress. Colson Montgomery was picked up in 35 leagues, as high as 58, as low as $1. I expected to see his name more in OCs, honestly, but maybe people are getting smarter with this. He's only picked up in 11 OCs. Montgomery did hit 500 over the weekend in his first series in Coors, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Struggled a ton at AAA with a high strikeout rate, so that's kind of kept me off of him. Not needing I'm not saying I didn't need middle infielder. I went and got Zach Geloff, for crying out loud. We're Colson Montgomery, not sure what to expect there. Where were you at on Colson Montgomery?
So I put his name down on my FAAB tracker sheet that I use as someone to add. I didn't even put a bid in for him. I just remember I took him in DCs last year, I believe, and he struggled in the minors. To your point, he had 214 last year in the AAA, and then across 2 levels this year he had 215. He doesn't steal, so you're not getting speed from a middle infielder, which I kind of want at this point in the year. So, and also the White Sox, I mean, I said like they're okay, but they're not an ideal team to target for offense in terms of who's on their team for offense. Like Talkman's a good stream, but that's about it. I mean, Benintendi too. So it's not the best supporting cast for Montgomery, and there's no speed. Average is questionable, so I just kind of said someone else can have him. But he could get hot, but like you mentioned the rookie thing, a lot has to go right for him to be pretty valuable.
Yep, I concur on that one. And then like Jordan Hicks got called up. I feel like it's more speculative than anything. Like people saw him get some action late in the game and picked up the save. I think it's more of a matchup thing with Chapman. Do you have any extra insight on that particularly? Like I could see a world where Jordan Hicks gets save opportunities, especially if somehow Chapman's gone out of the way. But as long as Chapman's there, I don't feel like Hicks ever really takes over.
Yeah, I actually put down Hicks on my phone for this upcoming Sunday, not realizing that he was added in about 2/3 of the main events. He's available in one of my three that are. Yeah, he's available in one of my three, and not the one. And it's the one where I'm punting saves, ironically. So go figure. But yeah, others were talking about Hicks, and it's just because I guess there's a chance that Chapman gets traded, and then it seems like maybe Hicks would take over as the closer. So like I said, I was going to plan on trying to spec on him this upcoming Sunday, but I'm not going to be able to do that now because the main event's so freaking tough when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, but like in an OC, I wouldn't do it. Obviously, it's just like a 15-team play. That's why we're talking about him now in the main event FAAB. But he could be pretty dominant if he is the closer. It's just a matter of the walks, as you know.
I agree very well. I got, like, when the Giants first signed him, I'm like, yeah, just make him the closer, and it never happened. And watch him be a closer for the Red Sox now. I'm going to pivot back to 12s because people love me going back and forth just for a couple random things. We don't have to talk about them, but just the most expensive bids for the week. Spencer Torkelson was picked up in 3 leagues, as high as 391, as low as 55, coming off a really strong week. Maybe he's starting to find a swing again. Xander Bogaerts picked up in 3 leagues, as high as 318, as low as $1. Jerkson Profar is still available in 25 leagues, not of mine, but picked up for 311, as low as 3. Woodruff picked up in 6 leagues, as high as 307, as low as 35. Woodruff might be a name we talk about a lot next week, Ben, because he probably was not available in a ton of leagues, to be brutally honest, with the situation. So what are your thoughts here when it comes to Brandon Woodruff and going forward? He came back and looked really good in that debut.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see his line after it happened. He has gone in all 4 of my FAAB leagues, so good on all my opponents. I'm trying to look at the velocity. So the velocity this year is 93.3, and I heard that it was down notably from the previous seasons. I'm trying to find that on Savant. I don't have it in front of me right now. I'm not the best with Savant compared to Fangraphs. But I trust that his velocity is down, which is concerning considering the shoulder injury that he did suffer. But it is Brandon Woodruff, and he could be just smart or good enough pitcher where he can work with diminished stuff. I mean, he's going to have to adjust if that is the case. Oh, I have it here. He's 93.2, and then last it was 95.8. So he was down by over 2.5 miles per hour. That's a huge drop. So yeah, I would be concerned about him being a stud again with that diminished velocity. He needs to do something else. Maybe he has to throw his cutter more, his sinker more. They were used pretty heavily, it looks like, in his first game. It was pretty almost across the board, like 20% on average between the 3 pitches. But the sinker and the cutter aren't going to get Ks probably. So you have to be mindful of that with Woodruff. And I don't have to worry about that because I can't add him anywhere. But if you did add him, just be careful that there could be some bumps in the road going forward with him.
Yeah, he was extremely efficient in that one. And yeah, I looked, he's not available in any of my FAAB leagues either. So that's pretty awesome. Blake Snell was picked up in 2 leagues, as high as 253, as low as 71, expected to start a rehab assignment shortly after the break. So he can be back pretty soon. People are still doing the Trent Grisham thing, picked up in 13 leagues, as high as 166, as low as $1. Zach Gallen was picked up in 16 leagues, as high as 138, as low as $4. But I want to ask you about Jason Dominguez, and then we'll move on to our ad drops for the week, because Dominguez was picked up in 6 leagues, as high as 131, as low as 13. I still have my shares of Jason. I still start him more often than I sit him, probably, because when he plays, he's, especially of late, he's being quite productive. The power isn't where he wants. He did have a double dong last week, which was nice. He hasn't had a ton of power this season, but he's stealing bags. When he plays, like, he's doing everything but hit home runs, it feels like. Where are you at as a Yankees fan with this whole let's not play one of our best prospects all the time? Just out of curiosity.
Well, he's actually played, was it 1, 2, 3? He's played 5 of the last 6 at least.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Well, the thing is, like the Yankees, they just they go in waves with guys starting all the time and then sitting all the time. So you called out Grisham as being a big ad. Let me look at Grisham's stats, because that's kind of
he homered over the weekend. I know that much.
Yeah, I mean, he's like on the year he's hitting 254 with his OPS is like 820, which is very good. I don't have his monthly stats. I'm sure I would bet that Grisham has decreased in production month over month, just because he was so hot to start out the season. It's frustrating. Well, Dominguez deserves to get at least play versus righties because he's awful versus lefties. That's kind of he either has to stop switch hitting or I don't know. He has to do something versus lefties, either just sit or I don't know, figure something out. Just maybe do what Mullins did and just bat lefty all the time. I think that's probably the best bet forward for him. The problem is that, well, at least Cody's playing every day, so that's good. He's going to play left, center, or first. True. I think Stan is actually the big problem because
that's the biggest problem.
They're paying a statue so much money to just stand there and swing hard and maybe hit the ball. Like it's making Rice be now a bench player back on roster resource after he was considered a starter for a little bit again. I don't know. I mean, they have been struggling, the Yankees. I doubt it's a coincidence. I think since Stan came back, they've been very bad, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Because when you have guys in and out of the lineup, they stay fresh, but you don't. It's hard to hit when you're not playing every day, no matter how good you are. 100%. And I don't know. Well, because of the Yankees, they're not going to sit Stan because they're paying him so much. He helped in the playoffs. They're stubborn like that, but I don't know. I think Dominguez is safer now because of how good his last couple of games have been. But it could, like we've been saying, it could change on a dime where he's sitting again for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know if they would do that for his development, but it's definitely in the cards. And I have Dominguez on a DC, and I haven't been consistent with playing him because of how it's been for the last couple months, or at least last few weeks. But it seems like going forward, he should be the guy in left. And then, I don't know, I guess Goldschmidt's taking the biggest hit, but he's still playing like he's played 4 of the last 6 Goldschmidt. So it's not like he's fully sitting. It's just really weird. I don't know. Something's got to happen where they get more guys full-time playing time.
Yep, I agree. It's not ideal, but I just want to get your thoughts because I watch it from afar. You watch it way more often than I do. So I was curious besides the obvious.
I want Volpe to get sent to the moon, honestly. That's the one thing I want to happen.
Well, okay, this is one thing I want to say because this is me not seeing it a ton, but I had seen a ton of Volpe slander of late, and I know his production is not great. I am not supporting that at all. But my God, he was supposed to be like the second coming to Derek Jeter for a while there, and now it seems like a year or two in, people are like, yeah, he's got to go. Well, did he do something else besides just not eat his chicken parm for the night, or what took place?
Well, he makes tons of errors. So at least if you're not going to hit, you got to field everything, and he doesn't do that. I don't have the rankings, but he's got like has a 963 fielding percentage, which is not very good, even for a shortstop. I don't think he has 11 errors already. He had 16 and 17 the last 2 seasons. I think he has the most men left on base in the majors. It was like him or Castellanos, and I think Volpe passed him the other day. I don't know if whoever it was passed him again, but he has like at least second most men left on base. His OPS is atrocious. He's just not that good. I mean, I don't think it's his fault because they forced him into the majors at such a young age. They probably should have set him down at one point. And I never understood why Volpe was such a highly sought after draft target, even this year. He was still going around in the early 100s, and I was like, why? Because he's fast? I mean, you have to get on base to steal, and I don't know, his average is going to kill you. And he proved that he can't hit for power and average. It's one or the other with him. He's not good enough to do both. He sold out for power his rookie year, had a horrible average, then he cut down the Ks, but then he had no power. So he's not that good. I don't know. He's still young. He could get better, but the problem is they have no one to fill. Like their infield's atrocious. They have playing Peraza, LeMahieu, him. I don't know. I almost want George Lombard to get called up because he's probably better than anyone they have in the infield right now. It's bad.
Yes, it is bad. I just want to give you a little therapy session there.
I didn't mean to rant like that, but I'm letting out a lot of my. Jeez.
Sometimes podcasting's therapy,
but it's been a rough couple of weeks at the Yankee fan.
Let it go. Yeah, but I've seen clips and all this stuff about Volpe. I'm like, what did he do besides just be a mediocre shortstop? But yeah.
If he's on with men on base, I'm like, he's grounding out the shortstop for a second. It's a given every time. He's doing nothing productive.
Oh, man. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. We'll shift to something hopefully more exciting here, or not exciting. That was exciting. More uplifting here. Let's talk our FAAB pickups for the week. If you're ready, I will give you the floor.
I've got them up. All right. So here's my main target of the week, probably. Main event. Oh, no, that's the wrong main event. Let me go to main event 1. Same guy. Yeah, he's my main target. So I added A's Max Muncy dropped. This is where I added Tony Santillan to block the former main event leading team from their backup closer. So I added Muncy, dropped Santillan, 12 to 12. So that was nice. And then I added Colin Ray, dropped Sawyer Gibson long 2 to 1. Main event 2. Again, added Max Muncy of the A's, dropped Ronnie Mauricio 6 to 1. Then I added Joey Cantillo, dropped Bailey Ober 4-0. Conforto dropping Pavin Smith 2-0. Max Kepler dropping Max Muncy 2-0. Dodgers Max Muncy, of course. I can't add this. So I basically dropped Muncy and then added Muncy all across my leagues. And then I added Logan Allen, dropped Robleski 1 to 1. Main event 3. Again, added Max Muncy on the A's, dropped Danny Jansen 12 to 6. So I finally got Ben Rice here as catcher, so that's why I dropped the catcher, didn't replace him. And then I added Alec Thomas back, dropped Mike Tauchman 4 to 1. And then I added Reed Detmers here, dropping Luke Weaver 1-0. And you were talking about using a reliever for safe ratios. Talk to Luke Weaver about that, because that did not go well for me last week.
Okay, pick one that's not on the Yankees, and we can. That's good.
I have to stay away from the Yankees. Clearly, that's the issue. Yes. And then the listener league, I added Eric Lauer, dropped Clark Schmidt 4-0. Added Tyro, dropped Dodgers Max Muncy 4 to 1. Added Will Benson, dropped Mauricio 2-0. And then I added Joey Cantillo again, dropped Bailey Ober again 2-0. So it was a pretty busy week, but a lot of cheap moves.
Yep. You good? My turn? Because I was busy.
I was all set.
I unloaded the clip this week as I was looking at teams going, okay, we need to make a move. To me, there's at least a handful of people that can help make, like, if they hit their upper percentile outcomes, we're in the ball game here. So we went for it. First OC picked up Zach Geloff, dropped Miguel Vargas. Love Miguel Vargas, not worth it at all on a 12. 88 to 26. I mentioned my Geloff appeal earlier. I think there's a ton of power and speed upside there. Batting average always a concern, but if you get half your games in that ballpark, I could even stream him and be pretty happy, I think, with the results. When it comes to Zach Geloff, that's the goal, at least. I picked up Royce Lewis in this league. Dropped Luis Rengifo 32 to 26. I know Lewis is always hurt. He was starting to swing it well before the last injury. We talked about that. The quality of contact was very strong. I'm gambling on an injury history. I'm very well aware of that, but it's another guy we've seen go on hot streaks that make him one of the best players in baseball. So I'll take my chances with Royce Lewis in this situation. Picked up Ronnie Enriquez, dropped Bailey Ober, which felt so good to do. $22, runner-up 21. So that was close. And then down the list, I didn't get some of the other pitchers I wanted. So I got Andrew Heaney, dropped Matt Strahm 7-0. I like Strahm more of a 15 than 12. I liked Heaney's two-step this week. We'll see how that pans out. Beat Bubba OC. Picked up Roman Anthony, who's been on fire of late. No home runs, but everything else is great. Dropped Miguel Vargas. This is where OC's this time of year. This is where I need to learn to unload the clip earlier in the year. I spent $122 on Roman Anthony. You want to guess the runner-up bid, Ben?
14.
21. You were close. It was very depressing, but I wanted to make sure I got him because I think he is another guy that's finding it at the big league level. Got Zach Geloff, dropped Ryan O'Hearn 88 to 5. I picked up Jake Berger, dropped Pavin Smith 33 to 33. So that felt good. And I picked up Yu Darvish, dropped Brandon Walters 22 to 5. So I got Anthony, Geloff, and Berger. I basically got 3 top 200 draft picks, it feels like, on FAAB this week. Again, that doesn't mean jack squat if they don't produce, but I'll take my chances if it's time to shake. These are middle of the pack teams that I need to basically go for it now. I can't wait around any longer. That's why we went crazy. In one of my 12-team standalones, picked up the A's Max Muncy, dropped Pavin Smith 32 to a runner-up of 0, which is always great. I'm with you on the Max Muncy thing. I am concerned Miguel Andujar. I wrote about him for Baseball HQ, which drops on Tuesday, is rehabbing and should come back soon. So I'm curious on how the A's play that situation out. But I love Muncy, especially with that 6 games coming up in Sacramento. In the Bubba in the Bloom Vegas League, picked up Geloff, dropped Narvaez 89 to 0. No one in the Bubba in the Bloom League wanted him. Picked up Hassan Kim, dropped the Dodgers Max Muncy 46 to 13. One thing I like about this league, not a lot of runner-up bids, but still a ton of moves are being made in that league. So that's always a plus. Bubba in the Bloom Listener League, 15-team auction, got Gavin Lux, dropped Ty France 36 to 2. Added Sean Burke, dropped Colton Gordon 33 to 4, wanted the two-step. Added Joey Ortiz, dropped Cody Clemens 26 to 10. I bid high because I had tons. I had almost $500 because everyone outbids me in this league. And then I picked up Andrew Heaney, dropped Bailey Ober 12 to 11. So made a bunch of moves there. In my online auction, the last one I will discuss, picked up Jake Berger, dropped Hassan Kim 44 to 10. So there you go. In a 15-team online auction, Runner-up bid of 10, where in an OC was 33, so you never know. Picked up Sean Burke, dropped Winfield Perez 44-7, and picked up the A's Max Muncy, dropped Cody Clemens 36-2. So I was very high on my bids this week, but I wanted to make sure to get my players because I've been too timid all season, Ben, and that's just been pissing me off. And it's time to make moves because if I wait any longer, it's going to be way too. It might be too late already, but it's going to be way too late at that point. All right, that'll do it, my friend. There's no listener questions because it's almost football season, so everyone is taken off for the year, but we will continue to bring you guys coverage pretty much every week, barring scheduling. Any final thoughts as we head towards the All-Star break next week, a shortened FAAB week?
Yeah, it's a tricky week. I wouldn't go too crazy trying to fill in your roster for that following weekend. I know people harp on that to start the season when you have like the Thursday opening day, and then you can try to take advantage of relief pitchers filling up your lineups, but I wouldn't do anything too drastic. I would just try to play it safe. I mean, if you have someone who's clearly droppable, okay, it makes sense, but I wouldn't drop a pretty good asset for someone just to fill in your lineup. I would take a 0 if it makes sense for the remaining 2 months of the season. But so don't go too crazy. Hopefully you can enjoy the All-Star game. I do like watching the All-Star game, at least. The home run derby's kind of fallen out of favor for me. I used to like a lot more when I was younger, but it's a good time of year. I always like it. I mean, I'm sure we'll still have FAAB to talk about, but some other stuff's going on too. I know Ryan's doing like a mid-year review. I might do something like that too for the Patreon. I've already got my data ready to look at for this week. I'll see what I can come up with. But yeah, it's a good time to recharge and don't go to football yet. I mean, if you're in my league, you can, but otherwise, if you're not in my league, don't go to football yet.
Yeah, if you're in a KC Bubba league, feel free to take your visions over there, knock yourselves out. But we'll keep plugging along as we do, week in and week out. Make sure you follow Ben on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. I'm at BDentric, and for now, Bench with Bubba, episode 774. Catch y'all next time.